Welcome to the Breakfast with the Relatives. My name is Joe Foster. I have the privilege of serving as the board chair for the Relatives and kicking off this 10th annual event. At this time, I would like to ask Reverend Karen Easter Bain with Dilworth United Methodist Church, the congregation that started the Relatives Crisis Center, to bless our food.
Good morning. How wonderful to see all of you here this morning. Thank you for coming, and let us pray. Holy and loving God, we thank you for this day and the opportunity to gather in community to make a difference in the lives of your children. We ask your blessing on the food that has been provided for us and on each person here today. You call and equip us to show compassion and kindness, and in doing so to transform lives, families, communities, and even the world. We thank you for the fine staff, the dedicated volunteers, the financial supporters, and the families who all make the work of the Relatives so effective. May your love and grace be made known through its work, and may what we all do here today increase hope, provide help, and bless homes throughout Charlotte. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Bain. Now, if everyone will please relax and start enjoying your breakfast, we'll continue. So today, we hope to pave the way for the youth in our community who are homeless, have run away, are in crisis situation at home, or just need additional resources to successfully make that hard transition into adulthood. We want to help them take their next steps toward the bright futures they deserve. We hope you will see how the Relatives has been a safe place and a means for support for our youth for over 43 years. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our generous supporters whose support allows 100% of the funds raised this morning to go directly toward the services for our youth. Please see the generous sponsors on our screen behind me. And thank all of you for coming today, and a special welcome to those of you who have attended one of our bi-monthly tours. For those of you who have not yet attended, please talk with your table captains about upcoming dates. And a special thank you to our table captains for attending our special Be a Relative breakfast with the Relatives. So now I actually wanted to share a little about my involvement with the Relatives. So like many of you, I live a short distance from here, and I would often drive by the Relatives' house on East Boulevard frequently, but I really didn't know that much about the Relatives until my wife, who's sitting right here today, Kristen, was talking about the dinner that she and the kids had with the Relatives. They talked about how they really enjoyed spending time with them, but then they also had some concerns. And my kids actually started to ask me, they said, "Dad, why are the kids here? Do they not have homes to go to? And by the way, where are they gonna go when they leave here?" And to be frank, those are questions that do not have easy answers. And after hearing about their visits, I joined my family on future visits and also learned that the Relatives helps kids other than just on East Boulevard. For example, a few weeks ago, I was having lunch with young men in our transitional living home for boys who have recently left foster care. And we talked about our backgrounds, of course, and although they noted their backgrounds weren't easy, they were eager to speak to me about what they were doing now. One of them spoke to me proudly about his job at the Home Depot. Another young man spoke about the maintenance job that he had working for an entrepreneur. In fact, an entrepreneur that was his mentor. And then as I looked at him in his eyes, you could see just how proud he was to tell me of the money he was saving because he was going to be moving into his own apartment in a few months. And the young men were not only interested in talking about what they were doing today, but what they plan to do years from now. And it is those stories and hope of our youth that motivate me to be part of the Relatives. And I hope after hearing our entire program today, you too will want to be a relative to all those youth in our community who are in crisis. Now please continue enjoying your meal as we watch the slideshow.
Good morning. Yikes, sorry. Good morning. I'm so thankful that each of y'all are here today. My name is Trish Hobson. I'm the president of the Relatives. That word relative, what does it mean to you? Who were the people in your life? Who were the relatives that helped shape who you are today? Was it your aunt or your dad? I was very fortunate to have lots of loving relatives around me while I was growing up. 2 parents, grandparents, cousins, a sister, but the person who probably had the most influence on me was my mom. She loved me in a way that no one else ever has, even when I was a rebellious teenager. She hugged me when I cried and celebrated with me when things went my way. She made a big deal of my birthday and took my sister and me to church every Sunday so we would have a sense of faith and community. My mom is the best cook I know, and if you don't know, you can ask my son, who's sitting right here in the front row. He'll tell you Grandma makes everything better than I do, even pancakes. My mom did everything she could to make our home safe and comfortable. When you walked into our home, it was always clean and smelled like the last yummy thing she made to eat. She took the time to do things to make us feel special. To this day, she's still my go-to when I have news to share. The kids we serve at the Relatives need that kind of support system, and that's where you all come in. Many of the kids we serve come from really tough situations. This year, I met a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old brother and sister who were staying at our shelter because their mother had found herself homeless. She took the kids to our shelter so they would have a safe place to sleep while she slept in her car nearby. I was so happy to meet those kids. They were adorable. But 7 and 8 is too young to be separated from your mom. I talk regularly to a young adult in our drop-in center who has schizophrenia. Sometimes I can hear her outside my office talking to the voices she hears. I met a young woman recently who was trying to finish high school while she was battling homelessness. Her mother kicked her out of her house literally on her 18th birthday. I meet many young women who bring their babies with them to the drop-in center while they're working on their GED. And I love playing with babies. But just imagine how hard it would be to get your education while you're battling poverty and taking care of a baby. Each of these youth deserve the kind of love and support I had growing up. They need to feel loved and valued so they can believe in a bright future, so they can become contributing members of our society. With your help, we act as the relatives who provide love, support, and even tough love when it's needed. I'm really proud of the work we do at the Relatives. This past year, we moved 19 young people from homelessness into their own apartments, and we supported them with intensive case management to help them learn to be independent. That's the kind of thing that changes a life forever. I'm grateful we can provide a safe place for kids to stay with us when they need one. About 350 kids stay at our youth shelter each year for about an average of 9 nights. Last year, 25% of those kids stayed with us more than once, and we opened our home to them each time they needed us. Since our employment specialist started 2 years ago, she's placed over 250 young people into jobs. This is just a small sample of the life-changing work we do, and we only do it because of you all. I want to say a big thank you to our family of giving. Those are the people who have committed to a multi-year gift, and others who support us. It's only because of you that the kids who come to the Relatives get the services they need. You make these wonderful things happen. I worked in an adult shelter here in town for many years. During that time, I saw firsthand the effects of long-term poverty and homelessness. Because we serve youth, I believe we have a unique opportunity to help young people before they become chronically homeless. My vision is that we will break the cycle of poverty and end chronic homelessness with the kids that we serve while they are in our care. I'm often asked, what do you all need? And the honest answer is, we need sustainable funding to carry out our programs. With your help, we can keep our facilities open and provide the well-trained staff to walk alongside our young people and help them become independent and stable. We need to move our young adults who are homeless into housing, and so they can concentrate on getting a job and their education, the real things that will move them out of the cycle of poverty. We spend about $7,500 per client to end homelessness. This includes about a year of a declining subsidy, as well as case management services. Because a house alone will not solve the problems that these young people face. They need our staff to walk alongside them, and they need you to walk alongside them and teach them what it means to be independent. $7,500, all in, that's it. That seems like a very reasonable price to me to pay to end someone's homelessness. And that's great news for our youth and great news for our whole community, because by comparison, the average cost of a community to host a chronically homeless person on the streets is about $39,000. That's what we pay in cost of shelter, hospital, emergency room, and jail costs. And all of those are only Band-Aids. They don't help in the problem of homelessness. So our kids need you. Please join us. Be a relative. Give our youth a future they never even dared to dream about. Now I'd like for you to hear from our clients. Please enjoy this short video.
I first left my home when I was 9. Dad was in and out of jail. I really didn't have, the support from parents like other kids had. Like, I'm 9 years old, waking myself up for school, going to school by myself. I'm getting off the bus by myself, making sure I eat, if I did eat that night. From 9 years old, I moved with my aunt, which was another bad situation. I was mistreated there, abused mentally, physically. It felt like prison. That's how bad it was. And I would just sit in a room and just cry and ask God, why am I going through this?
My mom, she put us at the relatives, and she was staying in different shelters. I was at the relatives 3 years prior, and I was going through a lot. I went to behavioral health, and I came to the relatives just basically to take a break from home. Miss Audrey, she's like a mother figure, like my mom when she's not here. Make sure that I'm okay, and not only in school, but emotionally too, somebody to talk to.
I was 17, and I was pregnant. I knew that my mom and dad were going to freak out, so I ran away. There were flyers in our high school on the bulletin board about the relatives, if you needed a safe place to go. I remember walking up on the steps, and it had been raining all that morning, and it was just depressing. And I knew that my mom would wake up and find my note that I had left. And immediately when I walked in the front door of this house, 42 years ago, I knew it was going to be okay.
The most important thing that the relatives has done to me, for me, is give me somewhere safe to stay and giving me support when I didn't have any.
I really didn't have any answers. That's when I first came to the relatives. Well, they have a resource center called On-Ramp, so around that time, I'm like 15, so like I was getting older, and I'm like, oh, I need a job. So they have a resource center where you get help with jobs, housing, and things of that nature. So I would go there like, after school, like every day, and try to get involved with them. So they helped me with like my first ever resume, me applying to jobs, me, getting ready for interviews, like the wrongs, the right things to do. So they still help me to this day.
I come to On-Ramp once a week and I bring lunch and just basically hang out with the kids. They are all excited to eat when I get here. This is probably their only hot meal during the week. And so I always try to bring something hot and healthy because I feel like they're my kids. When it rains outside, I think about them sleeping outside, if it's cold, if it's hot. When I drive around Charlotte, I see so many more homeless people than I ever saw before. It just has opened my eyes a lot to the suffering that's going on all around us. Just walking in the door and seeing their faces, feeling the love from them, seeing their tenacity, their hope, their humor, their love of life, and just knowing that On-Ramp is going to help them have a better future.
I stayed here. I got a room upstairs, and they showed me my bed, and it was right next to the window, which was out here. And this was in 1975. And I know that had I not walked up on these steps, I probably would have been dead somewhere, because I thought it was at the end. And I knew it was going to be okay. I knew it was.
I'm in the Road to Hire program. Basically, they get young adults, they give them personal development skills, help with resumes, public speaking, and things of that nature. They don't just teach you like things to get you ready for the job, but like life lessons. I just want to be successful. I just want to be in a place where I'm happy and, I could be stress-free.
I'm finishing up my last year at CPCC right now. I want to be a doctor because they make good money. Yeah. And I like helping people. I'm good at math. I'm really good at math. I'm good at noticing my problems and fixing them.
I tell people about this place all the time. I have friends that donate clothes here now and canned foods, and I just can't say enough about this place. There's a piece of my heart and life in this house. And I just want to thank them so much. This place saved my life. Believe it or not, those glasses were really cool in the 70s. I want to thank y'all for being here this morning, and I especially want to thank the relatives to give me a chance to share my story. I have waited 42 years to do this, The relatives did save my life. My story's not really different from any other 17-year-old girl that finds herself in trouble, pregnant, and I was terrified to tell my mom and dad. I knew they would be really angry and very disappointed. But throughout the spring, I kind of hid it behind big old baggy shirts, and they were pretty popular then. But then about June, I knew I was going to have to figure something out. So in my high school, Independence High School in Mint Hill, go Patriots, that's where I went to school. They had the flyers on the bulletin board, about the size of this, and it said the relatives, a safe place to go. So I figured that would be the safest place for me to go. So I was 17 years old and practically a baby myself, and I was really alone. And I did not know what my future would hold. So I decided one morning that would be it. I packed up and left. I got a friend of mine the only one I knew that had a car. It was a Nova, an old one. And we drove up 74 and got here. There was hardly any traffic on the road then. That was back in 74. I'm older than a lot of y'all. So imagine when I got there to the relatives, and it was raining that morning, and I walked up on the steps, and I was terrified, and the counselors came out and welcomed me, and it was a beautiful, big old rambling house. I think the Doobie Brothers were playing. So we sat down, and we talked, and I shared my story, and they were all about listening to me and caring about me. But then they told me, you're still going to have to tell your mama, because she's 17. So I said, can y'all call her? And they did. So my mom and my sister drove up there to sign me in. And I was, figured I'd get my hair pulled out or something on the front porch. But that didn't happen. So they talked to my mom. And she came out of the room. She felt much better. She looked better. But she looked at me and she said, we'll never speak of this ever again. So imagine being 17 and seeing your mom and your sister back out of the driveway. And I was there all by myself until I turned around, and there were my relatives. And being 17 was a scary time for me. And imagine being 17 and having a baby without any family around, and then giving that baby up, the only family you had. And yes, I did give him up, a little boy. But looking back on that difficult time, and it made me realize that family does come in all forms. For those weeks in the summer of 75, sounds like a rock and roll song, doesn't it? Those counselors and those kids were my family. We shopped together, we ate together, we went to the movies, we cried, and yeah, we did laugh a lot. They allowed me to be 17. They gave me love, they gave me hope while I figured out my options. And I did have options, and they helped me with that. But I knew I'd have to give him up for adoption. I got to hold him one time, though. I thank God every day the relatives were there for me in 1975. And I'm sorry I was not going to cry, but I always do when it comes to him. And I thank God that they are still there in the year 2017. And without all of y'all's support, they won't be there. So I hope that you can help. That baby boy was born October the 1st in 1975. And I did go home and never spoke to my mom and dad about him again. But every day, every holiday, every blonde-headed little boy, I thought, that's got to be him. That little boy I had to give up at 17. A few years ago in 2011, I was reunited with him. And today, because of the relatives and the support that they gave me at 17, I now can introduce to you my son Perry,
Well, I didn't know if I was going to say anything, but I got to take a second. I walked in that house, and I stood in that room, and I sat down on that bed, not knowing that was the bed that my mom stayed in. But I want to thank you for being there for my mother, because you were there for me. So thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Musa, and just like Sally, I'm nervous. I'm here today to tell you how the relative became my family and made a difference in my life. Well, to be honest, continues to make a difference in my life. My story is a little different than Sally, and probably most of you in this room. My story began in Liberia. I do not remember much about that time in my life. I know that my 2 arms were broken during birth. I still carry that nerve damage to remind me. When I was 7, a civil war broke out in my country. Rebels used small boys my age as a soldier. And if they got to you and you refused to become a soldier, they did horrible things to you, your mother, and your other family members. To ensure this didn't happen to my sibling and I, my mother took us to a UN refugee camp. I remember sitting in our hut while it rained and listening and watching the rain fall through the clear plastic roof. We were fortunate to have the opportunity to come to America with a refugee program. I came with my mother, my older brother, and 4 younger siblings to Charlotte. We ended up in a 2-bedroom apartment, and while that might seem small for 7 people, it feel like a luxury to have a real roof over our head, running water, and a stove to make food. The horror we escaped, this was like living in a dream. That dream didn't last long. When I was 13 and my brother 14, our mother started to lock us out the house and refused to feed us. In Liberia, boys truly did become a man of 14 and 13. But to this day, it is hard for me to understand. I remember my brother begging strangers for money so that we can get something to eat at McDonald's. This was hard time in our life. We were scared, angry, and did whatever we needed to do to survive. We eventually ended up in a foster family together, and when we turned 18, we found ourselves at the relative Journey Place for home from young adult males aging out of foster care. I remember that day I walked into Journey Place. I feel so uncomfortable and unsure of what I was doing. My brother was there, but this seemed like such a different experience. I remember feeling like I was 18 and was already a man, but wow, I have a lot to learn. I can truly say that Mr. Desmond was the first man in my life who taught me what it meant to be a man. So you can look at the part, but not the amount of swag can make you a man. Not only did the relative help me with my housing, education, and employment, they taught me how to cook, do my laundry, and how to respect myself and others. Most importantly, they made me realize how family should support you through the good times and the bad times. A few months ago, I ended up in the hospital. Do you know who took me there? Who showed up practically every day? Mr. Desmond and a relative. I know for a lot of you in this room, this is the first time you're hearing about the relative. And if I could tell you one thing about them, I would tell you that they cared about us when no one else does. And when we have nowhere else to go. They do not pass judgment, and they truly do lift us up. I dream of becoming a U.S. citizen, going back to school to be a physical therapist, and being a father who gives unconditional love to my children just like the relative has given me. I cannot express enough thanks to Mr. Desmond, all of the staff at the relative for being my family. And I hope you all will join us to become a relative too. Thank you.
Wow, that's a very tough act to follow. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Musa. That was great. You are an inspiration to all of us. Standing up here is not easy. I can tell you I have butterflies flittering around in my stomach right now. Please give them one more round of applause. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. My name is David Stedman, and this is my wife, Caroline. I'm a proud member of the Relatives Board. My first exposure to the Relatives was at this breakfast. I opened my wallet, but was moved to get even more involved. The more I learned, the more I understood that the Relatives really is unique. There are other organizations serving youth in crisis, but the Relatives is the only one that I know of that helps youth caught between foster care and adulthood.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Stedman. I became involved in the Relatives a little over a year ago. Most of you know the Relatives as the Crisis Center on East Boulevard, but I choose to spend my time at On-Ramp in Uptown Charlotte. On-Ramp provides support for young adults that need help transitioning into adulthood. Many are homeless or lack stability in their lives due to mental illness or aging out of foster care. They see me as a safe adult they can turn to and often the target of a good joke. I get enormous satisfaction from spending time with them. I love their humor, kindness, honesty, love, and energy. There isn't a day I spend at the center that I don't learn something from them. These young adults are wonderful people who just need a break. They have a lot going against them, yet they have hope for a better future, and I believe the Relatives provides that hope. Charlotte is a thriving, opportunity-rich community that continues to attract people, nearly 60 a day. That is only part of our story. Recently, a Harvard University UC Berkeley study uncovered the other part of the story. Charlotte ranked 50th out of 50 in economic mobility among the largest US cities. Specifically, the ability of a child born in the bottom income quintile to rise to the top of the income quintile as an adult. I don't feel comfortable with that statistic, and I believe the Relatives is the organization to alter that.
You have heard two remarkable stories on how the Relatives helps youth in our community. The Relatives has done this for 43 years. Today, we are here to ask for your financial support. We want to continue to help thousands of youth in our community. Your financial support will turn a scared and lost youth into a proud and productive member of our community. Now, I know you're already inspired by the stories. I also know you don't want to continue to be 50th out of 50. So I've got a kicker to get you even more motivated. I am honored and proud to announce a matching gift from the Leon Levine Foundation. In addition to providing $20,000, they will match dollar for dollar the first payment of all new and increased multi-year gifts, multi-year pledges up to $25,000. Let me make this clear. If you join the family of giving today and you make your first payment by November 30th, as today, first payment November 30th, the Leon Levine Foundation will match dollar for dollar what you give. Let's hear it for the Leon Levine Foundation. I am also happy to say that we currently have leadership and corporate gifts totaling $220,000. We are grateful and appreciative of our leadership donors. This is a great start, but I'm counting on you to get us across the finish line. I would like for you to consider joining Caroline and me in the family of giving to ensure sustainability of our programs. Now, this is the best part of the breakfast. It's the best because this is where you can make a difference in someone's life. There's nothing more satisfying than knowing that your gift impacted, changed, and potentially saved a life.
Now I'd like to ask the table captains to please distribute the pledge forms.
I got you.
Okay. Is he passing her now? Kathy, I can go.
Okay, got it now.
Okay. Starting at the top of the card, I'd like you to please consider joining the family of giving by making a multi-year pledge. If you are already a member, we would appreciate your consideration of any additional gift or years to your already generous commitment. First, let me begin with the Circle of Hope. This is a pledge of $1,000 per year for 5 years. For an average of $83 a month, you can help keep the doors open for kids like Sally, who seek safety at our crisis center. Our next giving level is the Circle of Champions. This is a commitment of $2,500 a year for 5 years. A gift at this level allows the relatives to provide case management for a client for a year. Musa benefited from our case managers. The next level is the Circle of Dreams. This is a commitment of $5,000 a year for 5 years. A gift of $5,000 moves a young adult out of homelessness and into a home of their own. The next giving level is the Circle of Life. This is a pledge of $10,000 a year for the next 5 years. This level allows the relatives to ensure the future of the agency by bringing safety, stability, and successful futures for many more children and youth in our community. Sustainability is key to the relatives' success. Please check the last box if you want to help the relatives for years to come. But please know that any gift of $1,000 or more for 5 years is considered part of our family of giving. Again, joining the family of giving or increasing your current pledge today will allow your gift to be matched by the Leon Levine Foundation.
If you are joining Caroline and me in the family of giving, let me personally thank you for your generous support. We know, though, and respect that some of you may prefer to give at a different level, and so we provide additional options for you. If you prefer to give at a different level, please indicate how much you would like to give and for how many years. Please know that we absolutely appreciate any support you can give. Every dollar counts.
We sincerely thank each and every one of you on behalf of the children and families we serve. We know how busy your lives are, and we also want to thank you for your valuable time. Now I'll give you time to fill out your pledge forms.
Okay, one last thing. I'm going to close with one last thought. Pain makes our youth stronger. Tears make them braver. And heartbreak makes them wiser. These kids are plenty strong, brave, and wise. You are giving them a chance at happiness and a better future. Thank you. Now I will turn the program back over to Joe Foster.
I'll tell you what, it's always really powerful to see this breakfast that I go to every year, and this year was no different. And we sure hope you will share with others the stories you have heard this morning. Your time today and financial support is vital to helping the many in our community in need of safety and stability. Thank you for your willingness to be a relative, and many thanks for all of you for coming today. Take care.